Welcome to the clash of World Champion Domaraju Gukesh as he shakes hands with his opponent Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. Very special player in the world of chess. Yagiz Kaan is from Turkey and he is just 14 years old. He's born in June 2011, which is insane. Gukesh himself, the youngest world champion, born in 2006, is 5 years elder to Yagiz Kaan. That's amazing. And this boy is already rated 2646. So he's clearly one of the biggest talents in the world of chess. And Turkey has these two amazing talents who are shining right now. It's Yaz and Edis Gurel. And Yaz adjusts all his pieces. He's actually trained by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, and he's known for his brilliant skills on the board. And for now, Gukesh and Yaz both are on 1 point out of 1 as we have the guest of honor coming in to make the first move on the top board. A handshake with both the players, and he moves his pawn to e4. Let's see if Gukesh manages to play that, keep that move, or he will take it back. Well, instantly takes it back, and maybe Gukesh has something else on his mind. The game is about to begin. Handshake, and off we go. It's 100 minutes plus 30 seconds increment for 40 moves, then another 50 minutes for 20 moves, and finally another 15 minutes as the final time control. d4, d5. We have the queen's pawn opening, and Yaz responds back with the symmetrical variation. c3 played. Now, if you look at this move, it looks very unambitious, right? Because generally you play your pawn to c4. But Gukesh has certain ideas in mind. He wants to keep the bishop development flexible. You could go bishop f4 and transpose it to the London. He goes bishop g5 and plays the Trompovsky system. And look at the time usage of Yagiz Kaan. He's down to 1 hour 27 minutes, which means he's taken 10 minutes for this move. He goes c6, and this looks a bit passive. And now Gukesh can chop off the knight on f6, but instead he goes queen c2 in just 2 or 3 minutes. By the way, the engines do not like this idea because of knight e4 attacking the bishop, and then bishop f5. And he does it. Yaz plays his knight to e4, attacking the bishop on g5. And Gukesh brings his bishop back to f4, putting it on this long diagonal. Now, the threat could very well be to play f3 and kick the knight away. And Yaz thinks for a bit, plays bishop f5. For the first 5 move itself, he's taken 26 minutes. And I think this is what Gukesh wanted. He wanted a very fresh battle with no theory involved, where he can outplay his opponent. So bishop to f5, and now queen comes up to b3, attacking the pawn on b7. Well, black can play very energetically here with a move like g5, but he goes queen b6. But look at this move, e5. If bishop e5, knight d7, and then just completely quickly developing if bishop goes back, then h5 and stuff like that. But anyway, it was more the engine-like way to play. Queen b6 played, and now Gukesh goes f3. He kicks the knight away from e4. And Yaz has to move his knight from e4 Gukesh would love to start expanding after that with g4, h4. He plays his knight back to d6. And it looks like a very, very symmetrical position, very simple position. Now he brings his knight to d2, developing here. If you take queen takes queen, I think white would love to take back with the pawn, opening up his rook. So he goes knight d7. He develops his knight. Playing e4 is difficult. So Gukesh goes g4 and hits the bishop on f5. Now the bishop must move backwards here. And it's time to gain even more space now with h4. And he plays it, pawn to h4. And white hasn't developed the kingside pieces, but that's okay. h6 played by Yaz. And do you even gain more space with h5? Clamping down this structure, just like the Caro-Kann defense. You push the pawn there. For now, Gukesh also has the option whenever to trade the queens. He goes bishop g2 and he's preparing pawn to e4. You will see that he has 1, 2 and 3 pieces looking at e4 square. So pawn to e4 would be on his mind. Yaz plays e6, opening up the bishop now. And now pawn to h5 is what he would like to engineer here. Yes, he pushes his pawn to h5. The bishop has to move away. And maybe it'll drop back to h7. Yes. And now shall we go e4 already? Yes, he plays e4. And look at the number of pawn moves that have been made in this game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, insane. And white has gained more space here. Yaz pushes his pawn. He wants to kind of play a4, force a queen trade. But in a way, now with the a pawn moved, Gukesh can take this queen, which he does. And now he cannot take back with the a pawn, so needs to take back with the knight. And you can play a4 in order to stop black from gaining more space on the queen side with the a pawn. Yes, that's what he does, a4. This is a game of space advantage here at this moment. And Yaz goes knight to c4, which is very logical. He wants to trade a few more pieces because he has less space. Gukesh takes on c4. Knight takes c4, attacking the pawn on b2. And he pushes the knight back. b3 played. If you try to go to b2 to come to d3, then king d2 traps the knight here. So can't be too adventurous there. Need to get back. Knight to d6 played. Now this knight is putting pressure on e4 point. So pushes forward with e5. The knight on d6 has to move back. Knight to c8. And now you just play your bishop back and start pushing your pawn. Bishop f1. Oof. Another very interesting move. And look at the idea here. If you go bishop c2 after this pawn, I go rook h2. And if you take here, I have rook b2 with a winning position. So king comes up to d7. And bishop e3. And Gukesh is preparing f4. It's 20 moves. No pawns have been traded. Bishop comes back to e3. No pieces are out from their original squares except for the bishop on e3. What a weird position this is. But Gukesh is clearly better because black is cramped for space. King d2. Love this move. 34 minutes for Gukesh. 20 for Yagiz Kaan. Is slowly being outplayed here. Knight to b6 played by him. Maybe he's trying to go back to d7 to engineer the c5 break. And f4. Slowly, the white pawns start moving forward. Knight comes back to d7. And Gukesh brings his bishop out to d3. I love this move because in traditional terms, this is your good bishop. In traditional terms, this is not the good bishop for black because he has pawns on light squares. But it's important that the bishop is doing a very important function of stopping f5. And with that out of the way, f5 becomes a huge thing. b5 played here by Yaz. And he's trying to play on the queen side, get some play going. But Gukesh is quick. He goes f5. Now taking here would mean that you have this huge phalanx of pawns. So takes on a4. And rook takes on a4. So a5 becomes a potential weakness. Yaz goes c5 now. And he's threatening to take on d4, and maybe get his bishop here. So knight e2 makes a lot of sense. So that if you take here, he wants to take it back with the bishop perhaps. Pawn to c4 played. He's trying to get things rolling. 6 minutes for Yaz, 15 for Gukesh. Knight to b6. Now attacking the rook, also the pawn here. The rook must move back. And a very logical square is a2 so that you can later double here. He does play rook a2. And knight takes c4. Now, black could potentially want to get bishop a3, rook b8 and start playing on the queen side. First, Gukesh chops off on e6, f takes e6. We are on move 30. 10 more moves to make until time control. 5 minutes to Yagiz Kaan, 13 to Gukesh. Knight f4, a lovely move. Looking at the e6 pawn, also on the g6 square. Rook moves to e8, trying to defend this pawn. And Gukesh comes back to bishop c1. First of all, taking away knight e3 options, also controlling the a3 square. He goes king c6. And now Gukesh has a winning position. Knight g6 and rook f1. Getting the f file. He's clearly better here. But he goes rook f1 first, which is also equally good. Yaz plays rook to g8 and now knight g6. It's time to make this move. But he goes king c2. Maybe not the best move. I think there was something that Gukesh didn't like about his king on d3. But now there is a beautiful move, bishop e7 that black has. But look at Yaz's time. He's down to 1 minute 20 seconds. And look at him getting all nervous. He plays bishop e7 with just 4 seconds on the clock, giving up the all-important e6 pawn. Gukesh chops it. And now bishop h4 could be a good move to attack the knight. g6 played. It's also a very interesting move. Gukesh needs to find this incredible resource with g5. So that if hg, h6 and if gh, getting the pawn on h6 finds it. Beautiful move. Gukesh down to 4 minutes. Yaz down to 7 seconds. Plays king d7. The only move now. Knight f4. Attacking the pawn on g6. This is getting very intense. He brings his knight back to f4. Pushes this pawn, putting pressure here. And rook f8. Pinning the knight. Well, Gukesh needs to find rook g1. And he finds it. Another insane move. 38 moves done. 2 more moves to make. And bishop takes g5, but now a very important move. Knight takes pawn. Has to be done. And Gukesh chops it with 2 minutes on the clock. And now with 3 minutes left for the final move before time control. Knight f6 is the move. No, he blunders here. Bishop takes g5 has been played. And Gukesh gets up from the chair with a triumphant look, it seems. But king takes d5 and Yaz is back into the game. It's such a big move here. And he takes it. King takes d5, taken by the youngster. 50 extra minutes, but the position has been equalized. He kind of chucks his pen to the side. I don't know if he's happy with this or not. But knight f6 was a very powerful move. If bishop f6, you could go rook g6 or even bishop h6, attacking the rook and then picking this up. Would have been very strong as this was hanging. But anyway, let's come back. bg5, king d5. Gukesh goes to f6, gh5. And now you see on the light squares, black has complete domination. Gukesh may want to break that up with rook g6. g7, maybe rook g6, I don't know, rook g7. He's trying to give a check here. But now black has a huge move. By the way, Gukesh down to 30 minutes. He's taken 20 minutes after time control. And Yaz can now draw the game. Rook takes f6 taken. And what a move this is, because after e takes f6, which is a must move, there is a check. You can't go up because of a4 check, rook a4 and mate. So that's the reason why he has to go back. And another check, and Yaz shaking his head there. He's like, I've dodged a bullet there. Arjun Erigaisi looking on the board. Gukesh misses a golden opportunity here to play a wonderful game and beat Yagiz Kaan. A handshake, and the players have agreed to a draw. Well, what a moment that was. Guys, a very, very critical moment came on move number 40 when black played king c6. It was important for Gukesh to find knight f6, which he must have thought, but I believe that after bishop f6, he was unhappy because after ef6, rook e2 check is very, very strong. But there is bishop takes h6 attacking here, and if you try to save your bishop, let's say bishop e7, I can take on f8, rook f8, and then h takes g6, and these pawns are very strong, and this is what I believe Gukesh missed there. Instead, he went bishop takes g5, thinking that his opponent would take this back when knight f6 is winning, but instead Yaz was up to the mark, took on d5, and then the game ended in a draw within couple of moves. Brilliant defense by the 14-year-old boy to hold the world champion to a draw. Gukesh, 1.5 out of 2, played it amazingly well, but a draw is all that he could get.